Murder in Oklahoma has sent shockwaves through 2 continents. The victim was Chris Lane, a 23-year-old Australian baseball player who was studying in the United States when he was gunned down while jogging. Lane's killers, allegedly 3 teenagers who police say committed the crime out of boredom. Now the governor of Oklahoma is joining fellow conservatives in asking President Obama to condemn their actions.
Do you think the president should speak out on this as well, particularly given his involvement in the Trayvon Martin case?
I think it would be a nice gesture for him to do that, and especially since the country of Australia has expressed their sentiments as to the murder itself.
Over the weekend, the Obama administration did issue a statement not to an American newspaper, but to an Australian newspaper called the Herald Sun. The statement reads in part, "As the president has expressed on too many tragic occasions, there is an extra measure of evil in an act of violence that cuts a young life short. The president and First Lady's thoughts and prayers are with Chris Lane's family and friends in these trying times." Here to weigh in, CNN political analyst John Avlon, and HLN contributor and Hiram College political science professor Jason Johnson. Welcome to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning. So Jason, I'll start with you. Why hasn't President Obama come out and condemned this killing, to American newspapers, to Americans?
Because people get killed in this country all the time, and that's really sad to say, but it happens. We have gun violence issues, we have crime issues, and I think a lot of the conservatives, this is a really disingenuous cry on their behalf to even compare this to Trayvon Martin. And so the president really doesn't have anything to say. It's a local law enforcement issue, it's not a national security issue, it's just a tragedy, and unfortunately we have to move on because this happens all too often in America.
But John, the former Prime Minister of Australia came out and had a warning for his fellow countrymen. Don't come to the United States. There's too much gun violence here.
Yeah, and that is a mark on our nation when a talented young Australian baseball player gets gunned down because the killers say they were bored. But boredom is not an endemic problem in the way that racism is, and it doesn't have the history of violence that racism does in the United States. Look, that is part of the danger of the President of the United States weighing in criminal cases. It is impossible for the President to weigh in on all of them. The White House gave a statement to the Australian media. That's appropriate. And if a U.S. journalist asked the President about it, I'm sure he will weigh in on this. It's not that he's not aware of it. But the folks who are pushing this line of equivalence, saying, where's the outrage, ignore a couple of big things. First, history and context. Second of all, that the system worked in Oklahoma. The perpetrators were arrested. Justice will be done. The outrage over Trayvon Martin's killing was in part because police had not made an arrest. It was that inaction, that procedural dysfunction that created a lot of the outrage. That's a distinction that makes a big difference.
But one of the accused killers, Jason Johnson, used social media to say something like, "I hate 98% of all white people."
Right. Well, look. There are a bunch of obnoxious kids, and kids say obnoxious and racist things. And I think what's important is whether or not this was a racially motivated killing, it is still a problem. One of the kids who was involved in the killing was white. That doesn't actually mean it's not racially motivated. That would be the same thing as saying a black cop can't necessarily stop and frisk or be discriminatory against a black person. But again, the larger issue is this. The President of the United States is not responsible for speaking about every single terrible case that ends up happening. If he wants to connect this to gun control issues, I think that would make a lot of sense. But the fact that a bunch of little sociopaths took a young man's life, unfortunately that happens all too often in America, and he shouldn't speak about it every single time.
And plus, John Avlon, if conservatives say that the Zimmerman-Trayvon Martin case had nothing to do with race, then they're kind of undermining their own argument in this instance, aren't they?
Well, what they're doing is bear baiting, right? I mean, what they're trying to do is play that card to say that the president, there is a double standard, and the president is, remember, in the minds of a lot of these folks, the president came out and gave his conversation about race in the wake of the Trayvon Martin verdict. They said the president was racist for discussing race in America. Now that is that's a pretty fascinating rhetorical two-step. But the reality is that, of course, the president's going to have insights into being black in America and race that are unique from other presidents. Now, every crime is horrific. Every crime is a tragedy. And I think conservatives can make a case that the fact that that one perpetrator saying that he hates 98% of white people does not get the same level of outrage as if a white murderer said he hates 98% of black people. That's a fair point we can have a smart conversation about. But what the card that's being played here is actually not about outrage. It's about playing the politics of racial resentment and attacking the president. Let's be honest about that. And for them, it's about ginning up ratings and angering their base.
Tit for tat, in other words. John Avlon, Jason Johnson, thanks so much.
Thank you.